We are different perspectives as we are creation experiencing itself. And so some of the deepest transcendental experiences you can have feel like what George was talking about, where he was meditating in India. And
welcome to this reaction series where we react to the best music from all over the world. I'm Ryan, and I've performed across 4 continents playing many styles of music. Thanks for joining me as a fellow music lover as we seek inspiration from the world's top performers.
Welcome back to the channel, and in this video we will be reacting to George Harrison's Spirituality. And I'm going to pull up this video here, which I have not yet seen, which will go into some clips of interviews of him and him talking about his spirituality. And I was just planning to react to it and pause it as we go and maybe respond to certain aspects of it. But this is part of my experimentation to see how you guys like hearing videos about topics on spirituality and musicians, which is something that I'm personally very fascinated by. So without further ado, here we go with some George Harrison.
The Beatles were a cultural juggernaut whose infectious melodies, innovative sound, and bold fashion choices redefined music. They sparked a global revolution in art, style, and societal norms that still resonate today. But one Beatle, George Harrison, was pursuing a quest beyond music. He was looking for deeper meaning and enlightenment in life. George wasn't just a Beatle. He was on a spiritual journey. He looked beyond the flashing lights of fame and fortune, looking to uncover the mysteries of the universe. Through his music, George Harrison gave us timeless songs infused with deep, mystical meaning. Welcome to the magical, mystical tour of George Harrison's life, a journey beyond rock and roll stardom and into the realms of spirituality, cosmic energy, and divine inspiration. From chanting with monks in India to ethereal visions in recording studios, George was more than just a Beatle. He was a seeker of truth, searching for answers to life's greatest mysteries. Join us as we uncover the extraordinary spiritual odyssey of George Harrison, the Quiet Beatle. In 1965, George Harrison discovered the sitar while filming Help. It wasn't just an instrument to George, it was a spiritual awakening. With the help of Ravi Shankar as his guide, George explored not just the music of India, but its philosophy and its mysticism.
How to get peace of mind and how to be happy, that's really what we're supposed to be here for. And the difficult thing is that we all go through our lives and through our days and we don't experience bliss. And you know, it's a very subtle thing, and to experience that and to be able to know how to do that is something you don't just stumble across, you've got to search for it.
George led the Beatles to India in 1968 to study Transcendental meditation. While other Beatles grew disillusioned, George embraced the teachings wholeheartedly.
If you want to know anything in this life, you just have to knock on the door, whether that be physically on somebody else's door and ask them a question, or, which I was looking to find, is the meditation. You know, it's all within.
One of George's first spiritual compositions, Within You, Without You, from Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, was directly inspired by this journey. The lyrics echo his spiritual awakening.
Pause it there. Yeah, I think it's really interesting how he said that we generally go throughout the day without experiencing bliss, and how that's something that you have to actually go and practice and cultivate like a skill set. And for me, that's what meditation is. It is practicing happiness and practicing bliss and training your mind and showing your mind that, hey, I want to be happy. And I'm gonna set aside an hour a day and I'm going to point my thoughts and point my mind and my consciousness in the direction of just feeling good. And as living things, we have access, unless you have chronic illnesses and things like that. Although meditation has also proven to reduce physical pain symptoms. So in that case, I think it's still worth learning meditation. But for most people, we have access to much higher degrees of well-being than we realize. And this is sort of the essence of the spiritual path, is learning to access the bliss that already exists within you. And there's a lot of different paths that you can take to get there. And George Harrison is one of my heroes, as he does use music as a means to spirituality, which is exactly how I approach music. For me, music is a spiritual experience, and it's a way of connecting to the spirit and connecting to something divine. And for some reason, for me, Indian music sounds especially mystical, and it stirs my soul in a very particular way that Eastern music, or that Western music, doesn't do. And so I've really been drawn to the Beatles compositions that use the sitar. And I think it's really interesting that they were able and willing to take that leap into using instruments that their audience would have been less familiar with. And that's something that I've also tried to incorporate in my music as well. And especially the music I'm recording right now has a lot of Eastern influence, and there's different kinds of tribal drums and kind of just following that beat as a form of meditation. And then I'm bringing in musical swells around it. And these are things that have directly impacted me as a musician. And so I got to give props to George Harrison for bringing in the spiritual and the Eastern elements into his music, which was how I was introduced to it.
Inspired by George's immersion in Indian philosophy, this song emphasizes unity, the illusion of separation, and the need to look beyond the material world. While meditating one evening in India, George said he felt an overwhelming presence of unity and love, a moment he described as the universe speaking directly to me.
All things must pass. All things must pass away. All together now. All things must pass.
All things must pass serves as a profound meditation on the impermanence of life, drawing inspiration from spiritual teachings that emphasize detachment and the acceptance of change. After the Beatles disbanded, George's spirituality became the heart of his music. His solo work was filled with songs exploring higher consciousness and the divine. My Sweet Lord is perhaps George's most famous mystical song.
And he said to me at a certain time, I want to do songs for Krishna. We're backstage in Apple, and he says, here's this song, and he plays My Sweet Lord.
Hare Krishna. The music really was the key that opened the door into the yoga and the Vedic scriptures, which is really the foundation of everything. You know, it gave some sort of backbone to my life. Krishna said, there's no time when we didn't exist, and there'll be no time when we cease to exist. The only thing that changes is the body.
When George introduced this, it went worldwide.
My Sweet Lord beautifully captures George's heartfelt yearning for a connection with the divine. Its prayer-like quality is enhanced by chants of Hallelujah and Hare Krishna, symbolizing the universality of God across different religions. George once said he wanted to show that music could connect people to God, no matter what name they use for him.
Music is a way to connect with God, and that is what I think all artists are trying to express and what they're trying to connect with their music. As if you look at pretty much any spiritual tradition, they will incorporate some sort of music, some sort of hymns or chants or mantras, or maybe shamanic traditions may include some shamanic drums. And there's a lot of really interesting science that's starting to come out around that, of how these ancient shamanic drum traditions sync to specific wavelengths and will kind of put you into a trance-like state to access these altered states of consciousness of connecting directly with something divine. And a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago now, I lived in a Krishna temple, actually, for a little while. And so I kind of got acquainted with George Harrison's Krishna connections and met some people that have been to his temple that he sponsored in the UK, and said it was a really, really cool experience. But in a nutshell, I was going to explain Hinduism for those that don't know anything about it. And this is kind of my own interpretation as a non-Hindu. So maybe certain people would agree with this, but certain people might not agree with it, as Hinduism does have many different sects and perspectives, and they vary quite a bit. But I have this little Brahma statue, and I got this in Thailand, and you can see that there's multiple heads on top, kind of looking out in different directions. And so the central message of Hinduism, in my own words, is that we are all connected to this supreme central source. Call it God, they would call it Brahma. And the name doesn't really matter, but we all come from the same source, and we are essentially different heads looking out. We are different perspectives as we are creation experiencing itself. And so some of the deepest transcendental experiences you can have feel like what George was talking about, where he was meditating in India and felt that he was essentially the universe experiencing itself, that he was connected to everything. And that is kind of one of the many Holy Grail type experiences that people pursue through meditation in Eastern religion.
Of My Sweet Lord, George said he experienced an unexplainable light fill the studio. He described the light as a warm, divine energy that affirmed the song's purpose. Let's talk about Friar Park, George's sprawling Gothic mansion. The place itself is like something out of a ghost story, complete with hidden tunnels and bizarre carvings. George loved the mysterious energy of the house, but it also had its share of spooky tales. One night, George and his wife Olivia reported hearing faint chanting from a locked room. When they opened the door, it was empty, save for a single candle flickering. Coincidence? Or a lingering energy tied to the house's unusual history? George naturally thought the latter. According to George, Friar Park isn't just a home. George said it's a living, breathing entity, and that it has its own spirit. George Harrison's song Give Me Love is a heartfelt plea for divine love and liberation, with references to the Hindu concept of escaping the endless cycle of reincarnation.
Give me love, give me love, give me sorrow, give me life, keep me free from birth, give me a home, help me cope with this heavy load, trying to meet you with heart and soul.
Give Me Love resonated like a prayer, a plea for divine love and freedom from life's endless cycles. For George Harrison, it was more than music. It was the essence of his journey, his lifelong quest for transcendence.
As Bob Dylan said, he not busy being born is busy dying, and yet nobody's trying to figure out what's the cause of death and what happens when you die. I mean, that to me is the only thing really that's of any importance. The rest is all secondary. To open up the within for each individual to be able to sit and turn off your mind, relax and float downstream.
George Harrison. He may have been called the quiet Beatle, but his silence spoke volumes. While others shouted, he sought enlightenment. He wasn't just a guitarist strumming in the background. He was the very soul of the band, weaving spirituality into every chord he played. George didn't need to be loud. His journey inward created a legacy that echoes outward, proving that sometimes the deepest truths are found in the quietest places. Life flows on within you and without you.
I find George Harrison's story to be very inspiring to me, and I see my story as following a very similar archetype. And I wanted to wrap up this video with just playing a little bit of one of his songs, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, and maybe to share the story about it, which also relates to his spirituality and maybe sort of brings home some of these theoretical concepts that they talked about in this video. And so when he was writing this song, he was trying to practice, it was some sort of a presence practice where he was trying to just write about whatever showed up and to be very present with the room. And so the lyrics are really simple. It's just, you know, I look at you all, see the love there that's sleeping while my guitar gently weeps. And he mentions, you know, I look at the floor and I see it needs sweeping while my guitar gently weeps. It's just literally, this is my experience of meditation and music meditation. In this moment, I am here looking at a floor that needs to be swept. And so it's very profound, very beautiful, and I think really showcases some of George Harrison's best songwriting skills. I look at you all, see the love there that's sleeping while my guitar gently weeps. I look at the floor and I see it needs sweeping. Still my guitar gently weeps. I don't know why nobody told you how to unfold your love. I don't know how someone controlled you. They bought and sold you. I look at you all, see the love there that's sleeping while my guitar gently weeps. George Harrison is one of my heroes, as he does use music as a means to spirituality. For me, music is a spiritual experience, and it's a way of connecting to the spirit and connecting to something divine. We all come from the same source, and we are essentially different heads looking out. We are different perspectives as we are creation experiencing itself. And so some of the deepest transcendental experiences you can have feel like what George was talking about, where he was meditating in India and felt that he was the universe experiencing itself, that he was connected to everything. We generally go throughout the day without experiencing bliss. We have access to much higher degrees of well-being than we realize. And this is sort of the essence of the spiritual path, is learning to access the bliss that already exists within you. That's something that you have to actually go and practice and cultivate like a skill set. And for me, that's what meditation is. It is practicing happiness and practicing bliss and training your mind and showing your mind that, hey, I want to be happy. And I'm gonna set aside an hour a day, and I'm going to point my thoughts and point my mind and my consciousness in the direction of just feeling good.